Ippo Makunuchi, the protagonist of the acclaimed manga Hajime no Ippo, is known for his powerful punches, relentless infighting style, and above all, his humble yet determined personality. Among his most iconic techniques stands the Dempsey roll, a self-developed move that would define his boxing journey. Born from necessity after his loss to Eiji Date, Ippo adapted the fundamentals of boxing, hit and don't get hit, into a rhythmic motion that would later become legendary. In this video, we'll explore every version of the Dempsey roll seen throughout the manga, including how it changed, evolved, and improved over time. We'll break them down into 4 main versions and analyze their origins, strengths, weaknesses, and their impact on Ippo's growth as a fighter. 1. The original Dempsey roll. The first version of the Dempsey roll makes its debut in chapter 213 when Ippo returns to the ring to face Ponchai Chatana after losing to Date. Inspired by footage of Mike Tyson, Ippo begins bobbing his head in a sideways infinity motion, using his entire body's momentum to launch devastating hooks from left to right. The author visually emphasizes the technique with a figure-8 motion split into 2 circular paths, marking the beginning of what would become one of Ippo's signature attacks. 2. The anti-Dempsey roll, sometimes called the new Dempsey roll. This version first appears in chapter 496 during Ippo's match against Ryuhei Sawamura. Sawamura, a master of counters, exploited the rhythmic nature of the original roll. In response, Ippo trained to abruptly stop the momentum mid-move, using his brute strength, and then restart it to throw off Sawamura's timing. It worked brilliantly. However, by chapter 509, Ippo admits to Itagaki that this updated technique may not work on everyone. Against highly reactive fighters like Miyata or Ricardo Martinez, the abrupt stop wouldn't give him enough time to recover before taking a clean counter. This version proved physically taxing at first, causing Ippo muscular strain, but with intense training, he mastered it without further damage. We see him use it again against Alfredo Gonzalez, where it fails to break through, reaffirming Ippo's earlier doubts. 3. Dempsey for control, not impact. A unique usage of the Dempsey roll appears in Ippo's match against Wally. Here, Ippo doesn't use the move to land punches. Instead, he uses its constant side-to-side motion to corner Wally in the ring, cutting off his escape routes. It's a creative adaptation, emphasizing that the Dempsey isn't just brute force, but also strategic control. 4. The vertical Dempsey roll. In his fight with Jimmy Sisfer, aka Scratch J, we witness Ippo attempt something new. Kamogawa suggests that if horizontal hooks aren't enough, he should throw a punch from below, introducing a vertical angle. At first, Ippo struggles, but with a second attempt, he delivers an uppercut from the rhythmic movement, transitioning from side to side into a powerful upward strike. This vertical adaptation had long-term consequences. Takamura envisions its shape as a modified figure-8 with a third ring in the center, an anti-counter version of the Dempsey roll, tailor-made to counter someone like Miyata. However, this version lay dormant for hundreds of chapters. Fast forward to chapter 1144, Ippo returns in a sparring match after his loss to Alfredo. Kamogawa immediately notices Ippo's movement, confirming it's the evolved Dempsey roll, now combining vertical and horizontal movements effortlessly. In chapter 1145, Ippo executes the move without strain, shifting between left, right, and upward punches fluidly. But the drawback becomes clear. If the enemy retreats mid-combo, Ippo can't follow. 5. Ultimate Dempsey roll. Diagonal Dempsey roll. Just a few chapters after Ippo's sparring session, where he showcased the new horizontal version of the Dempsey roll, Kamogawa approaches him near the banks of the Edo River. There, the coach directly asks Ippo how the idea to blend both horizontal and vertical movements came to be. Kamogawa specifically inquires why Ippo decided to add an uppercut to the technique. Ippo reflects deeply, recalling how several of his opponents had managed to counter or even dismantle the traditional Dempsey roll. opponents like Takeshi Sendo, Shimabukuro, and especially Sawamura, who completely destroyed the move. Ippo had learned to halt the Dempsey's momentum mid-action. But even with that improvement, he admits that the technique remained too vulnerable at the world-class level. He's convinced that had he used it more often against Alfredo, he would have lost even sooner. So that's why you added the vertical movement? Kamagawa asks, but Ippo replies with a simple no. He explains that he was simply experimenting with movements and realized he could do it. Kamagawa then tells him that combining fast vertical and horizontal punches isn't a bad idea. But if he misses an uppercut, he won't be able to continue the pursuit. This leads to a crucial revelation. The true form of the Dempsey roll is diagonal, not purely horizontal or vertical. This revelation shocks Ippo. In a symbolic visualization, the new version takes shape, not just an infinity symbol, but two intertwined figure eights forming a butterfly. Ippo begins to train this new movement, realizing he can do it easily and feeling excited, but he quickly grows concerned. What happens if the opponent steps back? He asks. Kamagawa explains that the built-up momentum allows Ippo to unleash the gazelle punch, closing the gap and landing a powerful blow in one smooth action. We then see Ippo applying this movement on sandbags, launching strikes from the sides, from below, and from above, a devastating mixture. The uppercut from below resembles the 3-4 uppercut he used against Sendo, and the downward punch mirrors Mashiba's chopping right. Eventually, Ippo performs this diagonal Dempsey roll against two punching bags at once, launching from one to the other using the gazelle punch as a transition. It's wild. After taking a month off from the gym for health reasons, which we won't go into here, Ippo returns with an even stronger body. He now has the ability to pivot with either foot, maintaining perfect balance even while launching the Dempsey roll combinations from a single leg. That brings us to his match against Antonio Guevara, the one and only time we get to see the new Dempsey roll unleashed at full power. Well, sort of. Throughout this match, Ippo continuously attempts the technique but never gets to fully complete it. Even when trying to release his full force into a 3-4 uppercut, a smash-like punch, he fails to connect. Why? Because he had already knocked Guevara out before landing the final blow. And while the aftermath of that fight is a topic for another time, that's the story of the Dempsey roll's ultimate evolution. Summary: original Dempsey roll, lateral figure 8 motion, devastating but predictable. Anti version can stop and restart mid-roll. More flexible, less predictable. Control usage, applied to cut off escape routes versus Wally. Vertical form, adds uppercuts, greater muscle strain. Diagonal form, smooth, fluid, and harder to counter. Combines power and tracking. Which version is your favorite? How long do you think we'll have to wait to see Ippo use it again in a real match? And in your opinion, which version did Ippo use in his sparring session? Personally, I think this diagonal Dempsey roll is one of the most brilliant power-ups in all of shonen manga. Someday, I'll make a full video explaining why it's the best evolution any fighter has ever had. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more Hajime no Ippo breakdowns, and as always, good night, champ.